You don't lose your path when life gets loud. You lose it when someone touches your worth, and you reach for proof. A rejection lands, and your stomach tightens like a fist. You keep your face calm, you hold posture. Then your thumb hovers over the screen, hunting for a message that puts you back in control. A silence stretches, not peaceful silence, social silence. The kind that turns your mind into a courtroom at 2 a.m. You replay one sentence until it bleeds. A betrayal happens, and you keep moving. But your shoulders feel heavier for days. Your workouts turn mechanical. Your focus splits. You start living sideways, orbiting the person who cut you instead of your own work. That isn't sensitivity. That's undisciplined attention. This is about building a mind so governed that rejection cannot steer it. Silence cannot drug it. Betrayal cannot hijack it. Not by becoming cold, by becoming unbuyable. Welcome to Philo Throne. We turn philosophy into self-mastery so you can sit on the throne of your own mind. Here's the first brutal truth. Your pain is not the enemy. Your bargaining is. When rejection hits, you bargain for your value. When silence hits, you bargain for certainty. When betrayal hits, you bargain for an explanation. Every bargain is a leash. Someone else holds the handle. Discipline is the cut that removes the leash. Not a mood, not motivation, a structure. So start where weak minds collapse. Rejection. Silence. Betrayal. 3 different triggers. 1 result. Your center of gravity leaves your body. Rejection says you are not chosen. Your chest tightens. Your breathing goes shallow. Your mind scans the past, searching for what you did wrong. Because your nervous system believes control equals safety. Silence says you are irrelevant. You check, you refresh, you pretend you don't care. Then you check again. That micro-behavior exposes you. Your peace depends on being acknowledged. Betrayal says your trust was stupid. Heat climbs your neck. Your hands feel restless. You fantasize about confrontation, revenge, closure, anything that stops the helplessness. Now stop and notice the shared infection. Each trigger forces the same question. What do they think of me? That question is a trap. It turns your life into a reaction. Ask a colder question, a useful one. What does this demand from my standards? If your standards run your body, you stay on your path. If their opinion runs your body, you leave it. And this is where power dynamics enter. Machiavelli didn't preach virtue. He described mechanics. People follow what feels solid. They test what feels negotiable. When you explain yourself under pressure, you broadcast uncertainty. When you chase closure, you broadcast dependence. When you tolerate disrespect to avoid friction, you broadcast that your boundaries are for sale. You don't need to be loud. You need to be consistent. Consistency is psychological gravity. It pulls respect toward you without begging. Watch your body the next time someone withholds approval. Do your shoulders pull forward? Does your voice soften? Do you offer extra context, extra kindness, extra effort? That isn't kindness. That's a bid. and bids create a hierarchy. You underneath, them above. So here's the cut. Discipline removes bids. Discipline says, my behavior doesn't change because your mood changed. Now betrayal. Betrayal hurts because it shatters a story you keep protecting. The story is, if I'm good, people will be fair. That story isn't immoral. It's childish. Jung would call it a refusal to integrate the shadow. Your refusal to accept that people carry appetite, envy, fear, and hunger for advantage. You pretend you live among angels. Then you act shocked when you meet humans. The disciplined mind doesn't live in fantasy. It lives in pattern recognition. Betrayal becomes information. It shows you where your expectations were naive, where your boundaries were unclear, where your vetting was weak. Feel the sting. Tight chest, hot skin, dry mouth. Those sensations aren't orders. They're signals. You don't obey signals. You read them. Here's the reframe that ends the spiral. You weren't harmed because you trusted. You were harmed because you trusted without structure. Now listen carefully. This is where Stoicism stops being a quote and becomes a weapon. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself because the world kept pulling him outward. He trained one skill: return to the inner citadel. Your inner citadel isn't positivity. It's command. Rejection is weather. Silence is weather. Betrayal is weather. Your response is the handle. Grip the handle and the weather stays outside. Epictetus gave a clean discipline. Separate what is yours from what is not. Their choice is not yours. Their message is not yours. Their loyalty is not yours. Your attention is yours. Your standards are yours. Your next action is yours. So build the first lock. Refuse to negotiate your worth in someone else's hands. When rejection hits, you don't argue with it. You return to your work. When silence hits, you don't refresh. You return to your schedule. When betrayal hits, you don't chase meaning. You return to your principles. That isn't numbness. That's sovereignty. And sovereignty begins with one decision. Your path doesn't require permission. Now we go deeper. Because the real addiction isn't pain. It's the need to be read correctly. Silence hurts when you built your identity on being understood. You don't want their text. You want your image repaired. So you rehearse speeches. You draft paragraphs you'll never send. You build a fantasy where one perfect explanation restores your status. Look at the micro behavior. You glance at the phone, put it down, pick it up again. Your throat goes dry. Your ribs feel tight. You aren't waiting for them. You're waiting for relief. Here's the truth most people refuse to touch. The need to be understood is often the need to be approved. Approval is a drug. It calms the nervous system for an hour. Then it demands another dose. A disciplined mind treats approval like sugar. It tastes good. It ruins you when it becomes a meal. So install a rule. When you feel the urge to explain yourself, stop and ask, am I speaking to clarify or to beg for an outcome? If the answer is outcome, you shut your mouth. You let discomfort sit in your body like weight on a barbell. Breathe through your nose. Keep posture. Don't sell your spine to buy comfort. Now, you need something you can run under pressure. Fast, reliable. A protocol. Call it the Sovereignty Protocol. 4 moves, no debate. First, observe. Name what's happening in the body. Tight chest, rapid thoughts, hot face, clenched jaw. This stops emotion from impersonating truth. Next, label the trigger. Rejection, silence, betrayal. Not, my life is collapsing. A trigger is a trigger. Make it small. Then choose the standard. Not the feeling, the standard. What does a sovereign person do in the next 10 minutes? And finally, act once. One clean action that points back to your path. Open the document. Lace the shoes. Wash the dishes. Train. You don't fix the relationship. You fix your direction. That is discipline. Action that doesn't require emotional permission. Now here's the warning. Most people fail at choosing standards because they never built standards. They built preferences. Preferences collapse under pressure. Standards don't. A standard is a rule you keep while you feel embarrassed, while you feel lonely, while you feel betrayed. So build standards that survive storms. Start with 3. 3 is enough to change your life. First standard. No pleading. No double texts. No paragraphs under heat. No bargaining for closeness. Second standard. No stalking. No checking their socials. No monitoring who they follow. No self-humiliation rituals. Third standard. No revenge. No impulsive confrontation designed to bleed your pride onto them. These aren't moral rules. They're power rules. Break them and you pay inattention. And attention is your life. Hold this image. A beggar on a throne is still a beggar. A quiet person with standards is still dangerous. Now we solve the confidence problem. Most people misunderstand it. You don't lack confidence. You lack proof. Rejection shakes you when your self-respect lives on other people's receipts. If the room claps, you stand tall. If the room looks away, you shrink. That isn't personality. That's a missing ledger. So you build one. A ledger is proof you can touch, not quotes. Completed reps, finished pages, kept promises, enforced boundaries. And the rule is simple. When you feel rejected, you don't seek a new person to validate you. You add one entry to the ledger. One set, one paragraph, one invoice sent, 1 hour of deep work, one hard conversation done clean. No begging. Your mind will argue. Your fingers will itch for the phone. Let them itch. Discipline is the ability to watch your impulse beg and keep your hand steady. So rejection becomes training, not because it's pleasant, because it exposes dependence and gives you a chance to cut it. Here's the test. Think of the last time you were ignored. What did you do within 10 minutes? Did you open your work? Or did you open your wound? The disciplined mind has one reflex: return. Return to the schedule, return to the task, return to the standard. Not because you feel strong, because you chose a law. And when you live by law, emotion becomes weather again. It passes. You remain. Now we step into the second layer. Even after you return, the mind will keep trying to recruit you. Rejection, silence, betrayal don't only hurt. They invite you to become smaller. They whisper, prove yourself. They whisper, chase them. They whisper, destroy them. A disciplined mind hears the whisper and does not move. First, rejection. Rejection feels personal because you confuse selection with value. A door closes and your nervous system treats it as exile. Your stomach drops. Your shoulders tense. Your mind builds conspiracy boards. What you said, how you looked, what you should have done. Stop. Selection is preference, timing, incentives, limitation. It is not a verdict. Nietzsche attacked herd worship for a reason. When your worth is decided by the crowd, you become a slave to applause. You start shaping yourself into what gets chosen. Then you wake up and realize you sold your life to be liked. So the disciplined mind flips the question. You don't ask, why didn't they choose me? You ask, what does my path require, regardless of who chooses me? That question changes posture. It puts your breath back in your belly. And here's a model you need. 2 seats in your mind. 1 seat is for your mission. 1 seat is for your ego. Rejection tries to shove ego into the driver's seat. It says, turn around, fix the image, get chosen. Your hands get restless. You reread the conversation. The rule is simple. The mission stays in the driver's seat. Ego can ride. Ego can speak. Ego doesn't steer. So you hear it without obeying it. Ego says, they disrespected you. You answer, noted. Ego says, prove you matter. You answer, ledger. That isn't suppression. That's leadership. Now, silence. Silence is warfare when you participate. Silence is only powerful when you kneel to it. When you wait, you give it weight. When you check, you give it oxygen. When you spiral, you give it worship. The person who controls your attention controls your schedule, and your schedule controls your future. So you stop interpreting silence in real time. You wait for data. Data is behavior over time, not one delayed reply. And when silence happens, you run a standard. You lean back, not as a tactic, as a boundary. Here's what this looks like in the real world. You sit with work open. A tab waits with your project. Then the phone lights up and your attention snaps like a dog hearing a whistle. You pick it up. No message. You put it down. 30 seconds later, again. That cycle isn't love, it's submission. So break the altar. The moment you want to check, stand up, shake out your hands. 1 slow breath. Feel your feet press into the floor. Then do the smallest useful action available. One email, one page, one set, one cleaned surface. You're training a new association. Uncertainty equals movement, not rumination. That's how you win silence warfare. You refuse to make their absence the main event. Now, the trail. The trail immunity isn't about rage, it's about gates. The trail tempts you to become a detective. You replay conversations. You hunt hidden meaning. You want the moment where it all makes sense. That's the wrong hunt. The right hunt is structural. Where did you ignore early signals? Where did you grant access without earned trust? Where did you accept small disrespect to avoid discomfort? Your body usually knew first. A tight chest when they joked at your expense. A flicker of heat when they crossed a boundary. A strange fatigue after being around them. You felt it. You overruled it. That is self-betrayal. So you upgrade the structure with 3 gates. Access follows consistency. Words don't earn closeness. Repeated behavior does. Boundaries are enforced once. No speeches. No debates. One consequence. Trust is staged. You don't hand your full story to the first room that feels warm. Gates remove drama. Gates remove surprises. Gates remove the fantasy that safety comes from being liked. And here's the hard cut. The betrayal wasn't the first betrayal. It was the loudest one. You ignored the earlier signals because they threatened your self-image. I'm a good judge of character. I can handle it. It won't happen to me. Those lines feel strong. They're fragile armor. The disciplined mind trades fragile armor for hard structure. It admits reality, then builds gates. Now we finish with the discipline that makes people call you cold. Detachment. Detachment isn't ghosting. Detachment is refusing to negotiate with manipulation. When someone senses you can be pulled, they pull. When they sense you can't, they respect distance. That's why Stoicism looks harsh to people who live on emotional leverage. They call it unbothered, like it's an insult. What they mean is, I can't control you. Detachment is dominance because it breaks the transaction. No reward for warmth. No punishment for coldness. Only standards. But detachment needs a tool, not a vibe. So use one rule. Delay. When you feel provoked, you delay action for 1 hour. No texts, no calls, no posts, no confrontations. During that hour, you do something physical. Cold water on the wrists, a fast walk, a set of push-ups. Let adrenaline drain. Then decide from standards, not heat. Most damage isn't caused by betrayal.
It's caused by your reaction to betrayal. The angry paragraph. The late-night call. The public spiral. Delay protects dignity. It keeps your crown on while your nervous system screams. And when you can delay, you become unreachable to bait. That's what untouchable means. Now you need execution, not theory. So here's a 7-day experiment that forces your nervous system to obey structure. Before you start, write your path in 1 sentence. Not a dream, a schedule. What you do each day that builds your life. Then write the 3 triggers that steal you: rejection, silence, betrayal. Under each, write your default weakness: chasing, refreshing, exploding. Now write the counter move: return, lean back, enforce. Put that where you can touch it: desk drawer, wallet, notes. When the surge hits, you don't debate. You read and execute. On the first day, cut the refresh ritual. You check messages at set times: morning, afternoon, evening. When the urge hits, observe the body, label the trigger, and do 1 ledger action. On the second day, remove the explanation reflex. If you feel misunderstood, you don't send paragraphs. You send 1 clean sentence, or nothing. On the third day, train under emotional friction. Pick 1 task you avoid when you feel rejected. Do it while the heat is still in your chest. Teach your nervous system: discomfort doesn't cancel work. On the fourth day, enforce 1 boundary. Small, clean, a no, a refusal to reschedule for someone careless, a decision to leave a conversation that turns disrespectful. Feel your hands shake and do it anyway. On the 5th day, audit access. List who drains you, then change 1 rule: shorter calls, less availability, fewer explanations. On the 6th day, replace rumination with movement. When betrayal thoughts loop, you move the body. Walk fast, lift, clean your space. Make the mind follow the body back into reality. On the 7th day, write your 3 standards like laws: no pleading, no stalking, no revenge. Then, write what you earned: more focus, more calm, more authority in your own head. Each day, write 1 line at night: I returned, no audience required. Now the final reflection. Nobody claps when you don't send the second text. Nobody cheers when you close the tab and return to your work. Nobody sees the moment you swallow pride and keep your standard. That's why it counts. The disciplined mind isn't dramatic. It's quiet. It's consistent. It turns pain into structure. Rejection becomes a filter. Silence becomes a test. Betrayal becomes a lesson in statecraft. You don't need a better story. You need a tighter grip on your attention. If this hit you, subscribe to Philothrone. Share it with the one person who keeps losing themselves in other people's moods. And leave a comment with the trigger that steals your focus: rejection, silence, or betrayal. Name the leash before you cut it. And next,
We talk about the most dangerous habit smart people keep:
over-explaining.
not because you're polite, because you're still negotiating for permission. Here's where it gets dangerous. The more you explain, the more you teach people your boundaries are optional.